Hello everybody and welcome to this Brazilian Grand Prix race review. And what a phenomenal Grand Prix we were treated to. It had action, it had overtakes, it had a fight for the win. It was the best race of the season in my opinion. So let's just briefly go over the results. Lewis Hamilton won his 10th race of the season ahead of Max Verstappen, Kimi Raikkonen and Daniel Ricciardo. Valtteri Bottas held off Sebastian Vettel for P5. Charles Leclerc was best of the rest in P7 with Grosjean 8th, Magnussen 9th and Perez 10th. Brendan Hartley claimed 11th ahead of Sainz, Gasly, Vandoorne, Ocon, Sirotkin, Alonso and Stroll, with your retirements being Nico Hulkenberg and Marcus Ericsson. But firstly, let's talk about our race winner, Lewis Hamilton. Now, of course, it was not his best race of the season. I think that's easy to say it. But he was there to pick up the pieces. He managed his tyres well in that second stint. His front left tyre was just enduring a mass of degradation. And he held on to it well. And I still don't think Mercedes had the best package this weekend in the race. I thought in terms of this race was about tyre wear and Red Bull had the upper hand on that. Valtteri Bottas came home in 5th and he was just nowhere the entire Grand Prix. He had no pace whatsoever and in the first stint he struggled to hold off the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. Ferrari once more had another miserable episode in 2018, only claiming 3rd and 6th. Third was actually Kimi Raikkonen, who was let past by Sebastian Vettel halfway through the race, and he had the pace over Vettel. Vettel just had no tyres and just no pace whatsoever, and it's just why they've lost out on the Constructors' Championship. And by the way, congrats to Merc. Red Bull proved again why they had the best chassis on the grid, with Max Verstappen coming home in P2 and Daniel Ricciardo fighting his way to P4. Max Verstappen was voted driver of the day, and in my opinion that was the right decision. He had superb pace and had great racecraft and lost the race through that collision with Ocon, which we'll get onto later. And once again, Red Bull are just improving over these last few races we've had, and they could do some real good things next season with the chassis and maybe the engine package they have. Sauber proved why they had the 4th quickest car this weekend, with Charles Leclerc claiming an easy P7. He was just so much further ahead than everyone else, but Marcus Ericsson endured a difficult race with him having to retire, which I think was down to a rear brake issue or just something wrong with the car fundamentally at the rear. Haas got a solid 6 points, but let's be honest, their fight for 4th in the Constructors is over. They've wasted too many points this season, and they're just going to have to focus now on 2019. Force India had a mixed race. Sergio Perez somehow got a point with a car that I don't think was touching the top 10 this weekend, but also Esteban Ocon was amid the biggest controversy of the race weekend, taking out Max Verstappen from the lead. Toro Rosso couldn't build upon their great race in Mexico as they went pointless, and Brendan Hartley had a decent race, but Pierre Gasly just had no pace during the race. Renault illustrated that they have been clinical this season. They've never really had the 4th quickest car, and it was proven this weekend in this Grand Prix, but they picked up the pieces when they wanted to, and that's why they're claiming that 4th place. And then you have the great British teams McLaren and Williams, and they were just nowhere near the points in this Grand Prix. To be honest, the only thing that could have made this race better was the rain that has a huge chance of coming, but it just never came in the end. And our luck with rain this year has just been so poor. But now let me offer my opinions on the Ocon-Verstappen clash. Now I'll offer some context that I understand. Now, I've heard from Sky Sports that Ocon was lapsed by Verstappen about 3 laps prior to the incident, and Ocon felt he could go quicker whilst right behind Verstappen, so he went for it down the pit straight. He went round the outside into turn 1 but never gave up on it, and in the end the two collided. Now this raised questions and divided the F1 community, so let me talk about this controversial incident. Now this is the point in the incident where Ocon went round the outside of Verstappen into turn 1. Now Verstappen should have seen Ocon at this moment here, so he knows Ocon is there, so surely he would have given him space, but because he's a lapped car, we change our mind slightly and approach this incident very differently. And still, as we progress through this incident, Ocon is side by side with Verstappen, and this is when the track is white, but it tightens up going into the second corner. Now this incident here for me, illustrated what Max Verstappen is as a driver. He assumed Ocon backed off. Verstappen took a big risk in this, and in the end, he cut Ocon off, and it started at this part here. And you can see this trackside where these two were inevitably going to crash going into turn 2. Ocon was right next to Verstappen, but Verstappen didn't realise. And this is the moment where they came to blows. Verstappen right on the apex and at turn 2, and Ocon was going for the same piece of track. Ocon was subsequently handed a 10-second stop-go penalty, and in my opinion this was primarily due to he took out a race leader and not someone in 10th place that was going to lap him. But now I'm going to fully offer my opinion on the incident. Now, Ocon didn't need to fight Verstappen in this instance, but Verstappen didn't need to fight Ocon. Ocon was behind Verstappen for 3 laps and felt he could go faster, so he rightfully put himself in an overtaking opportunity. Unlapped cars are actually allowed to do that. Look at Hamilton on Vettel in 2012. And Kubica did it to Hamilton in 2008 at Brazil, which cost Hamilton his position. So unlapping someone, racing them for that, isn't actually against the rules, really. And to say that, Ocon took up Verstappen, he interfered with the leader's race, but at the same time, Verstappen was kind of interfering with Ocon's race, and that says a lot about Formula 1. That we don't care if Verstappen's slower than Ocon in that instance. Ocon isn't allowed to overtake and race somebody. That's just, in my opinion, very unfair, and says that the midfield teams has no right to go racing. It's just poor officiating, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, Verstappen saw Ocon in turn 1. So Ocon taking out Verstappen at the apex of turn 2 shouldn't have actually been much of a surprise to the young Dutchman. So primarily, probably is Ocon's fault. He probably shouldn't have gone for it in the first place, but Verstappen in the end contributed to the clash as much as the young Frenchman did. But that is my opinion, and opinions will differ in the F1 community and paddock. And what Verstappen did post-race was utterly disgusting. You can't push an F1 driver. And just, 2 years ago at the Mexican Grand Prix, he said Vettel was complaining like a child after the cutting corner incident, but Verstappen did worse. And I know it's a heat at the moment, but these are F1 drivers, for goodness sake. They're old enough now to know, in the human element of things, that pushing is not really tolerable, and Max, for me, made a meal of it and did contribute towards the incident as much as Ocon did. But guys, that is it for today's video. Please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until next time, guys, see you later.